He was a one-off. He was always in a tracksuit. He was always Jimmy Savile. I don't think anybody really got to know him that well because he was always this larger-than-life character who did an enormous amount for charity and was always running marathons.
When you went out, I mean, did you socialise with him, or was it always an act? Was there always that carapace of Jimmy Savile, the entertainer? Did you ever get beneath that?
No, I don't think I ever did. I think there was one time I got to, he just came down and wasn't Jimmy Savile for a time. When I was going out to do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, he suddenly said to me, he said, I really hope you do well at that. I'm sure you will. And suddenly and then he went back to the now then, now then. But that's the only moment. I mean, we worked together a terrific amount. I didn't socialise with him. It was a purely working relationship. And I don't really think anybody, well, I don't know anybody who really knew what he was like. I just think he was like that the whole time.
He was in his 50s, wasn't he, or nearly 50 when he was doing Top of the Pops. Did he strike you as a man who was a chameleon, who could change and sort of transform himself on a sixpence, as it were, and always sort of fit in with the zeitgeist?
Yes, I mean, he was just Jimmy Savile. It was simple as that. I mean, he raised an enormous amount for charity. He loved doing his charity work and his marathons. I mean, I don't know how he did all those marathons. It was amazing.
Well, especially after all the cigars he's smoking. Every time you see him, he's got a cigar to smoke.
I don't think he ever really smoked a cigar. I mean, he always had that cigar on, but I never really saw him taking a puff and inhaling it. So I think it was just there for show. I might be wrong on that, but I never really saw him smoking one very seriously. But he was just a complete one-off, and that was it. I think Jimmy Savile, the way you see him on television and the way he behaved like that, I think that was just him. And I think he was a bit of a lonely character as well.
Was he good fun?
Yes, I mean, it was just Jimmy Savile the whole time. I mean, when you were with him, he was always talking about, his time when he was a miner and things like that, and always be proud of what you do, never mind what you wear. And he was always promoting the fact that, he was promoting himself in a way to you. And that was the strange thing about it.
But that sounds a bit exhausting.
He was quite an exhausting character to be with, yes. But I mean, he was just Jimmy Savile. You can't really. I've never known anybody quite like him. He was just the way you see him. There was no pretense about him. He was a blunt-speaking northerner, but he was at the same time he was always kind and very respectful to you as well.
What was the driving force, do you think, on all the charity work?
I just think that he enjoyed doing it. I don't think that was a part of him. That was a part of his image. He got this reputation of raising an enormous amount of money, and I think it gave him a lot of pleasure to do that. And I remember once talking to somebody who, in one of the hospitals he regularly used to visit, and he said, "It's lovely seeing Jimmy, but unfortunately sometimes he is a bit of a nuisance because he wheels the wrong patient into the wrong ward." And so they had to sometimes sort the patients out after he'd gone. I mean, he meant well, and he was always playing the clown.
He knew an extraordinarily wide cross-section of people, didn't he? I mean, I was reading that he was a guest at New Year's parties with Margaret Thatcher for 11 years running.
Yes, I mean, he did. He knew an enormous amount of people. I mean, the people that he knew, politicians, and people like that, they all seemed to want to be a part of him. That was the strange thing about him. This rather odd character in a tracksuit did have an enormous amount of very powerful friends. And politicians seem to think that being a part of Jimmy Savile, it sort of probably helped them in a way. I don't know. It was always strange. But he did know a lot of people, including royalty and everybody embraced him. And to my way of thinking, he did a lot of good in his life, and that's the main thing, and I think that's what he'll be remembered for.
Was he a nice man?
As far as I can work out, he was. As I say, he was always this Jimmy Savile character. He seemed very pleasant to me, but as I say, outside doing Top of the Pops and occasionally in a radio studio, I didn't really know him, and I don't think there were many people who did know him. He lived in a caravan in the BBC car park for a lot of his life, and he travelled around the country, and nobody really got to know him. I think he was quite a lonely person, though. In the privacy of his own life, I don't think he had many real true friends. Now, that might be wrong of me to say that, but I don't think he was. I think there was a certain loneliness to him.
Just on the last point, just briefly, why was he living in a caravan in the BBC car park?
I've no idea at all.
Did you ever get invited inside?
I never went inside his caravan. I was never invited inside. I think he also had he had a various amount of places that he lived in, but I think he was probably a traveller, to be honest with you, because he spent a lot of his time travelling around the country and nobody quite knew where he was.